So let me preface this for a second. I'm about to tell a story that I think proves that when a loved one dies and they are on the other side, they have a hand in what's going on.
Oh, can we time out for a second?
Sure.
So you didn't believe that before?
Oh, no. I totally believe that.
So what's different now then? Like, is this just because it's in your face now? You're like, oh, damn.
I 100% believed it before. Like, as we've talked about signs and synchronicities, I 100% believed it before. But now I have this really amazing firsthand experience of my father passing.
Okay.
Keep in mind, something I've talked about on the show is that before my dad died, when he was diagnosed with cancer like 3 months ago, he and I, over the last 3 months of his life, had some really rich conversations. And one of them was, hey, Dad, when you die, like, you got to give us a sign.
Yeah. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah. And I was like, you got to do something. And Dad was such bad humor, like really inappropriate. So his suggestions were kind of inappropriate.
Yeah. Awesome.
Which was, again, awesome. And it was my dad. I would not have expected to have happen what happened to me this week, but there's just no way Dad didn't have a hand in it. It's just so awesome.
All right, well, give me the goods.
All right, so here we go. So one of the things leading up to my dad's death is that my mom was very adamant about wanting a dog. She really wanted a puppy. And for her, they've had dogs before, but for her, they don't currently have a dog. But for her, it was like, hey, my husband's going to be gone soon, and I don't want to be alone, so I want to get a puppy. Now, in real life, what was going on is when my dad was still alive, my mom was super stressed, and it was a big burden on her. And Tanya and I talked about it, and we're like, I know she wants a dog, but there ain't no way we are giving this woman a dog right now. Like, this woman has got to handle my dad. She's, her health is declining. No way. There's no way.
Understandable.
So, but Tanya and I's routine is, and I'll say this right now, we are big into rescuing dogs.
Okay.
And we've been everything from volunteers to donate money to rescuing animals from Pet Pal Animal Shelter here in St. Pete for 20 years, a long time.
You stole a dog out of Mexico so you could save it.
We did. We stole two, actually.
We
did smuggle 2 dogs out of Mexico.
That's good people.
So, so rescuing dogs is a big thing. We love the people at Pet Pal. I know Scott, the owner, and that's a big part of this story. So what our routine has been in order to find mom a dog is we follow Pet Pal on Instagram, and they'll always post like, hey, here's a dog, here's a dog, here's a dog. So Tanya will text me a picture, and she'll be like, hey, what about this dog? And I'm like, no. And leading up to Dad dying, I was like, we ain't getting this woman a dog. There's no way. The second Dad dies and we're having literally the days that followed, Mom was like, I need a dog. And I was like, okay, you're ready to get a dog. So over the last 3 weeks, like every day, Tanya would be like, what about this dog? What about this dog? And for one reason or another, it's too big, it's too something, it's a breed she doesn't like. It wasn't happening. So on Tuesday, dude, this is crazy. On Tuesday, I was in New York City. And we had gone up for Thanksgiving, and I was flying home Tuesday. And I'm on my way. I'm on the air train going to JFK Airport. And Tanya sends me a picture of a little Yorkie Terrier. God. And Mom and Dad used to have a Yorkie. Oh, my God. And she sends me this Yorkie, and I'm like, that's it. We got to get it. Now, Scott, the owner of Pet Pal, had specifically instructed me and Tanya that if we ever come across a dog, don't wait, because they get adopted quick. He's like, don't wait. You got to call me, and then I'll put a hold on it so you can come down and make sure it's right. So I'm on the air train going into JFK, and I'm like, we got to get this dog. And Tanya was in the middle of a meeting, and she's like, can you call Pet Pal? And I'm like, well, I'm about to go through the line of security. And she goes, all right, well, I'll text Scott. So she texts Scott, and then she texts me 2 minutes later, and she goes, oh no, Scott's out of town at a funeral.
Oh my!
He's it was
not the time to ask,
right? He was out of town at a funeral, oddly enough, in New York City. So I'm like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? I was like, because this is the dog. There's no doubt this is the dog for my mom. We have to get this dog.
You obviously find out where the funeral is. Go show him the dog.
Like, hey dude, I know you're mourning right now, but can we get this dog? So I'm like, man, what are we gonna do? And so I'm texting back and forth with Tanya, and she's like, I'm in a meeting, and I was like, listen, let me get through security, and I'll just call Pet Pal. I'll just call Pet Pal, and I'll be like, hey, you don't know me, but I know Scott. Maybe you could put this dog on hold. I'll be home tomorrow. Please don't let this dog get adopted. I was like, all right, that's going to be my plan. I was like, maybe they'll listen to me. They don't know me, but I can drop Scott's name and like be all cool and stuff.
Under authority of Scott, I call.
Right. So I get in line in security at JFK and I'm like nervous. I'm like, I can't lose this dog. I can't lose this dog. This is going to be so good. And dude, I look up and you'll never guess who's in line with me at JFK.
Stop it.
6 people in front of me is Scott. City of 15 million people at one of the busiest airports on planet Earth. The one human being I need to talk to in that moment is standing 6 people in front of me.
Dude.
That is a true story. So it's one of those like security lines where you're wrapping around like stanchions and stuff. So we get to the end. I see him. He rounds the corner. I look at him. He looks at me. And we have a moment where it's like, I know you, but we shouldn't be seeing each other right now. And then he says to me, he goes, I'm texting your wife right now about a dog. And I said, so am I. And I had my phone in my hand and we're both looking at our phones and he puts up his phone and he goes, is this the dog you want? And I'm like, yes, it is. And he goes, all right, I'll call the shelter. And by the time he wrapped around the security line, the stanchions one more time, like 2 minutes later, he's like, it's on hold for you. You just go by tomorrow and make sure it's right.
Perfect.
And I'm like, what are the odds that in this city, in this airport, in this moment, you're the one human being on earth that I need to talk to right now, and I can't, and here you are.
It's a gift. Now, at what point did you say condolences?
I never did.
Awesome.
No, I did acknowledge. I was like, man, I saw this thing that you're up here for a funeral, and he kind of shook it off, and I was like, so he was just kind of like, I don't want to talk about it. So I didn't.
One of those.
And then I saw him the next day. I went to Pet Pal on Wednesday, and just full report, as soon as we wrap up today, I'm driving to Pet Pal to pick up Izzy.
What?
Yeah.
Izzy, great name.
Great name, right?
Great name for a
Great name.
carrier.
So I was telling him the story next day, or I was talking to him the next day when we were both back, and he was telling me that he wasn't supposed to be at the airport at that time, that he was supposed to be on an earlier flight, and there was a mix-up in security.
Stop.
And he was having a really bad day because he was supposed to fly out at like noon or whatever, like 7 or something. So he wasn't even supposed to be in line at that moment. And then when I got on the plane and I was thinking about it, I was like, Dad, you got your fingerprints all over this.
Yeah.
Like you did something, and it got me really deep into like how, entities on the other side work. Like, oh, I'm going to plant an idea here. I'm going to drop this picture here. I'm going to do this here. And I'm going to bring all these together. It's still up to the humans to act on it. It's still up to free will to act on it. But I'm going to try to, make a few things happen.
Yeah.
And I told Mom that story. And I'll conclude with this. I called Mom after I went to make sure Izzy was right. And I called her that night. So Wednesday night I called her. And I talked to her for the first like 10 minutes. And I was like, Mom, how are you doing? And she was not good. She was like, she'd gone to pick up Dad's ashes and she was really struggling. And she was like, every night is tough. And I was just giving her a place to just talk and process and that sort of thing. And she wasn't crying, but you could just hear the sadness in her voice. And I said, well, Mom, you want some good news? And she goes, sure. Like it was one of those like deflated, yeah, that sounds good. I was like, I got you a dog. Everything changed after that. Everything changed.
Perfect.
She was like, I told her about the dog. And then she was like, I told her what the dog was. And she goes, oh my God, your father and I like 6 months ago were actually talking about getting another Yorkie. And I was like, well,
there you go. Thanks, Dad.
I was like, let me tell you how Dad had a handle in this.
Yeah.
And then I laid out the entire story about running into Scott at JFK. And then she started crying, but it was crying these amazing tears of joy. Yeah. And she was like, oh my God, your father had a hand in this. I know it was him. I know it was him. And it was like, it was a cool moment because I'm like, Mom, 100%, Dad orchestrated this entire thing. And you got a Yorkie coming to you this weekend. And she was just like, and I talked to her last night and I felt bad because I was going to try to drive up after the show today and I couldn't get a pet sitter. And so anyway, I can't go up till tomorrow morning. So I was kind of bummed that I wasn't gonna be able to go up this afternoon. But I called her and she was like, I have told every person. I've told everybody at the RV park. I've told everybody, all my friends. Everybody loves the story. And everybody thinks this is dad. I'm like,
for sure.
Yeah, totally.
That's
totally
so cool. Yeah, because if you think about it, like, so I always love like the science behind these types of things.
Of course you do.
So if you believe in quantum science, which you have to, it's real. There's this whole theory behind like emotions, how they're transmitted through space time, because your heart and your brain put out an electromagnetic signal. And with authenticity and love, when those two are coupled, it's the strongest signal you could put out. So like potentially there is a chance that through you and your family's authenticity, putting all that out, he was able to easily spot you. And then, because on the other side, time's not real.
Exactly.
So they can, on the other side, you can orchestrate 10 years worth of happenings in what we would perceive as just a couple of seconds, because you can be anywhere at any point in time doing your little chess maneuvers.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way I visualized it, is that time is not relevant to dad anymore. It's gone. So all he needs to do is drop a couple little things, delay a flight, move a person's security, make a person do an Instagram post, put a Yorkie at the shelter, do all these little things, and boom.
Bam.
Mom's got Izzy.
Yeah.
I'm doing doggy delivery tomorrow morning.
Yeah, dude. And you guys are communicating literally through your emotions.
Absolutely.